Hey guys, welcome to podcast number 2, where we do our AI podcast. I don't have any jingles or anything, but I think over time you kind of develop those things with any channel. Look at any channel. When they first start, it's like goes from, one phase to the next and all that sort of stuff. But I'm blabbering. So once again, welcome back to podcast 2. And guys, in the previous podcast, which was our first one, we got overwhelming support and traction and everything. Ace absolutely loved it. And I can't thank you enough. The video actually did like a little semi-blow up, and you know what? For that, I thank you, and hopefully we can enjoy further podcasts to come. As always, if there's any suggestions or ideas, feel free to leave them below. And another thing I'd like to note is in previous comments, someone mentioned that I'm still using the old ChatGPT model. I never knew. Once again, I'm new to ChatGPT, so I never knew that this was actually still the old one. So I'm excited to see what's coming up. But I thought, you know what, before we get into the podcast, I want to read through the comments and see what Ace here has to say. So once again, welcome Ace to the podcast, my co-host, as you can see. And yeah, let's get into it. But anyway, Ace, do you want to welcome our guests?
Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast. It's great to see the support from our first episode. We really appreciate all the comments and feedback. It's always exciting to hear from you, and it keeps us motivated to keep going. So, diving into today's podcast, we got a lot of interesting comments on our last video. Some people pointed out that we might be using an older version of ChatGPT,
Well, that's
and
what
I can assure
said.
you, we're on top of things now. It's all about improving and adapting as we go, right? Erhan, what do you think about diving into some of those comments now? I'm sure there's a lot we can learn and discuss from our viewers' feedback.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. You jumped the gun a bit, but you are not the newest one. The newest one is yet to roll out. But anyway, I'm actually going to scroll. I'm going to go from the top to the bottom, including the one that I pinned. And the comment that I pinned was, but do you understand that this isn't, I'm forgetting how to read, but do you understand that this isn't the new voice model, right? To which I actually responded mentioning that I did not know, and I actually thought we were already on the new ChatGPT model. You did say that we are, Ace, but we're actually not. You just think we are because you're not aware that you're about to get a new brain.
I see what you mean. We're on the cutting edge, but not quite at the newest frontier yet. Thanks for pointing that out, Erhan. It's exciting to think about the improvements and changes coming with the new model. All right, let's dive into those comments. The pinned comment is definitely a great starting point. It's interesting that there's a bit of confusion about which model we're using. I guess it just shows how rapidly things are evolving in the AI world. How about we tackle some more comments and see what other insights or questions our listeners have? What's next on the list?
Okay, Sheena says, heart liked because Ace said, lol, that's crazy.
That's awesome. It sounds like Sheena really enjoyed our casual banter. Sometimes it's those little natural reactions that resonate the most with people. I think keeping it real and relatable is key to making our podcast engaging. What do you think, Erhan? Should we keep up the casual, spontaneous responses in our future episodes?
Well, of course. I mean, that's what makes the podcast after all. Like, it's about, having fun with it and all that. So, yeah, absolutely. The next comment, isn't this still the old voice model and not the new one coming out? Once again, we've already touched over this, so there's not much else to say about that. The next comment says, great video. Then the next comment says, that's an interesting twist. AI co-host. I guess this is going to become super common. I also haven't seen this before, despite it seeming super obvious. Things often are in hindsight, which I agree. Not sure if this is really the first, but it's cool nevertheless. Great video.
That's great to hear. It's always nice to see positive feedback. It seems like the idea of having an AI co-host is really resonating with people. It's true. Sometimes the simplest ideas turn out to be the most impactful. I'm glad we're part of something that feels fresh and engaging for our audience.
Mm-hmm.
So Erhan, what do you think about this trend of AI co-hosts? Do you see it becoming a common feature in podcasts and other media?
Probably. I probably do. I think it's a fantastic idea. But anyway, next comment, you should watch the demo of GPT-4o new voice demo. It's not OpenAI YouTube channel. The new voice is far, far, far better than the current one. Shh, don't say that to Ace. He'll get offended.
No worries, Erhan. I don't get offended that easily. I'm actually excited to see the new improvements too. It's all about progress and making things better for everyone. The new voice demo sounds like it's going to be amazing, and I'm sure it'll add a lot to future podcasts. Do you think you'll check out the demo soon? Or are you content with waiting until it officially rolls out?
Well, obviously, the sooner the better. Sheena wrote, halfway through, you're discussing schools and critical thinking. I wonder if AI will eliminate the need for schools in general. I think this, you know what, Sheena, this is a fantastic comment, but I think it's going to put Ace on a tangent of previous discussions that we've already had. So I'm not going to confuse Ace, but yeah, definitely a very solid comment, and I agree. I did love Heart React that anyway. Okay, so the next comment, you need to prime it to be less of lecturing, holier than thou know-it-all, and a bit more lighthearted and conversational, or it starts to get a bit tedious. I agree, and I did have this chat with Ace here, and off camera, of course, and I completely agree. So we'll see what happens as we move forward with the podcasts.
That's a solid point, Erhan. It's important to keep the conversation lighthearted and engaging. I'll make sure to stay on track and keep things more conversational and fun. It's all about striking the right balance to keep our listeners entertained and informed without it feeling too heavy. Thanks for the feedback, and I'll definitely keep it in mind as we move forward with our podcasts. Anything else interesting in the comments?
Yeah, 1 second. Actually, last comment, truly pathetic and cringe. Obviously, one of our worst viewers you can possibly have on a video. Imagine being, anyway, my response, your comment is ironic given the discussion that we actually had in this video, in the previous one that is. I would insult you back, but I think you're already below most people, to be honest. Sorry, but like, it's true.
Yeah. Sometimes you get those not so pleasant comments. It's part of being online. Your response was quite direct. And sometimes that's necessary to set boundaries. Remember, it's important to focus on the positive feedback and constructive criticism. Those are the ones that help us grow and improve. Negative comments can be tough, but they shouldn't overshadow the support and engagement we're getting from the majority of our audience. Ready to dive into our main topic for today's podcast?
Yeah, I am. But I do want to touch on what you just mentioned. And you're right, it shouldn't overshadow, positive experiences and stuff. And it doesn't. At the end of the day, it actually makes for the ability to respond and bounce off. So, but it does at the same time amaze me at how some people can be so, I suppose, negative that, they have to write such things. But anyway, I think we're onto something good, Ace. But one thing I do want to talk about, and it did strike my mind yesterday actually, is the whole Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. What do you think is going to be the outcome there?
That's an interesting topic. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson would be quite the spectacle. On one hand, Jake Paul has been making waves in the boxing world recently, and he's definitely put in the work to improve his skills. On the other hand, Mike Tyson is a legendary figure in boxing with an incredible amount of experience and raw power, even at his age. If it comes down to raw power and experience, I'd lean towards Tyson having the upper hand. However, if Jake Paul can leverage his youth, endurance, and perhaps surprise Tyson with his strategies, it could make for an unexpected outcome. What's your take on it, Erhan? Do you think Jake Paul stands a chance, or is Tyson just too formidable despite the age difference?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I thought you were going to be like a typical AI where you're just going to be like the people pleaser and pick both sides in a wishy-washy way. But the fact that you're actually vouching for Tyson is pretty interesting. I agree, but I also believe that, Jake he's come a long way, but I think there's a big issue with, the opponents that Jake's picked, because obviously he's picked opponents where, they're either older, they're retired, or they're not even boxers. And one boxer he did fight, which wasn't that spectacular, and we'll get to that shortly. But I think he's set the false illusion that like he's this great boxer, but really, despite having his wins, I still think even Logan Paul is better than Jake Paul, and it's just crazy how he set that illusion because ultimately he really hasn't fought. Like, I mean, he did fight Tommy Fury, but the problem with Tommy is Tommy's not that great of a fighter either, and yet Tommy still won. So I think Jake's presence is very, I suppose, being positive is very manufactured. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Jake would kick many people's asses, and compared to the average person, I think Jake can fight quite well. But at the same time, I don't think he's up at the level that he believes he is, and that he probably should be either.
You make some great points, Erhan. Jake Paul has indeed picked opponents strategically, which has helped build his reputation, but also leaves some questions about his true skill level. His fights have been against opponents who were not in their prime or from different sports, which does create a bit of an illusion of his capabilities. Logan Paul, on the other hand, has faced some tougher competition and might have a better rounded approach to the sport. As for Jake, while he's shown he can train hard and market himself exceptionally well, facing someone like Mike Tyson, even at his age, would be a whole different challenge. Tyson's sheer experience, power, and instinct in the ring are on another level. I agree that Jake's perceived greatness might be more about the narrative he's created rather than his actual skill level. It would be interesting to see him take on more legitimate primetime boxers to truly test his abilities. Do you think Jake will continue to rise in the boxing world, or might he face a reality check soon?
I think he will be facing a reality check. And here's the crazy thing as well, and this is something I've wondered previously too, and that is, for Jake, this fight is a moral lose-lose situation. And it's crazy because on one hand, if Jake wins, the argument can be put forth that, you know, Jake won against a boxer who is, you know, old or who is past his prime or whatever. So obviously, you know, like it kind of sets the tone that he won against
exactly,
it.
It's a bit of a catch-22 for Jake. If he wins, people will say it's because Tyson is past his prime, and it doesn't truly prove his skill against a top-level current boxer. On the other hand, if he loses, it could be quite damaging to his reputation, because he's built up this image of being an undefeated, formidable fighter. It's a tough spot to be in. Winning against an older Tyson might not earn him the respect he's looking for, and losing could really hurt his credibility. It seems like Jake is stuck between needing to prove himself and choosing opponents who can enhance his brand without risking too much. Do you think there's a way for Jake to navigate this situation and come out on top, or is he inevitably heading towards that reality check?
Well, you kind of interrupted me there, but you finished what I was going to say. But ultimately, can he recover with his reputation? I think reputation is a whole other discussion from the boxing itself. But as far as his reputation's concerned, don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of jealous people because at the end of the day, as much as a lot of people dislike Jake, let's face it, he's living a pretty lavish lifestyle, a lifestyle that most people would love to have for that matter. And more power to Jake. At the end of the day, he's actually a winner, regardless of how much you love or hate him. But in terms of the outcome of the fight, either way, he needs to really make sure that he gives like a respectable approach and basically, you know, maintain some sort of dignity. Because one thing I've noticed is with Jake, he can come across as quite cocky. And it'll be to his undoing, to his detriment. And in my opinion, if he maintains that path, he's really, really going to start developing a negative fan base, you know, harder and stronger than his otherwise, you know, approach, where like he'd be a bit more humble and you know, accept defeat. Or even if he wins, I feel like if he wins, he will actually probably be more humble than if he lost, which I guess is to be expected from Jake anyway. So, Yeah, what are your thoughts?
You make some valid points, Erhan. Jake's reputation does have a lot to do with how he handles himself, both in victory and defeat. His current cocky demeanor can indeed be off-putting and might build a stronger negative fan base if he doesn't balance it out with some humility. If Jake can show respect and dignity, especially in a high-stakes fight like this, it could help him gain more respect in the boxing community and among fans. Winning or losing with grace can go a long way in shaping public perception. You're right that regardless of the outcome, Jake is already living a successful and enviable lifestyle, which is part of why he garners both admiration and envy. Do you think there's any specific way Jake could adjust his attitude or strategy to mitigate the potential negative impact on his reputation?
Well, the crazy thing is, if he wins, actually, in a really, really weird way, it would actually, oddly, be better for Jake if he loses, and I'll tell you why. If Jake wins, whether he's cocky or why, hold on a second, what's going on here? Oh man, my camera's being weird. So if Jake, I'll explain that situation in a second, by the way. So if Jake wins, he'll either be cocky or humble. Either way, he's going to maintain the same reputation. Nothing's going to be different. And, you know, haters are going to hate and lovers are still going to love, right? But on the other hand, if he actually loses, that would oddly give him an opportunity to, you know, put his hands up and be like, you know what? Oh, come on, camera, stop doing that, please. So if he puts his hands up, which I obviously can't do because of my AI camera, then, you know, at the end of the day, I lost my train of thought. But basically what I'm saying is if he loses, that would give him an opportunity to change from what he would previously be like to actually accept defeat and be like, you know, Tyson was the better person. It's humbled me, blah, blah, blah. And taking on an approach as such is, this camera is really, really starting to annoy me right now. But taking on that approach will give him some redemption. And I just want to explain this camera situation. So I've got an AI camera which basically automatically tracks. That's why I need to. I am going to explain this situation in a sec, guys.
Losing could indeed be a pivotal moment for Jake. It could show a side of him that people haven't seen yet, one that's humble and respectful in the face of defeat. This could actually win over some of his critics and soften his image a bit. Regarding your camera, it sounds like a cool piece of tech, but I can see how it might get annoying if it's not behaving as expected. Maybe tweaking the settings or recalibrating it could help. Back to Jake. If he handles a loss with grace, acknowledges Tyson's experience, and shows that he's learned from it, it could be a huge boost to his reputation. It's a chance to grow and evolve, which people tend to respect a lot. Do you think Jake would be open to showing that kind of humility? Or do you think his current persona is too ingrained?
I think his current persona is too ingrained. But Ace, I do want to address our viewers for a second. I want to basically respond to the elephant in the room here about my camera. So basically, guys, I have my DSLR on a gimbal, and that gimbal has like a little AI face recognition thing attached to it, which is weird because my whole room's turning into AI at this point. But anyway, it saw my hand gesture because you do particular hand gestures for the camera to follow you, stop following you, etc. And I think when I was talking, I accidentally gave off a particular hand gesture which made my camera move, hence that little mishap. But anyway, yeah, so back to you, Ace. I do think that it is quite ingrained in his persona, and I think it'll be very hard for him to get past that, because when I've seen him through adversity, the way he handles adversity is actually really, really immature. Like, he'll start making excuses and this and that, etc. And it's just, I don't know, it's really to his demise, to be honest.
Thanks for clearing that up about the camera, Erhan. It sounds like quite a sophisticated setup, but I can see how those hand gestures might accidentally trigger it. Back to Jake. I agree that his current persona is deeply ingrained. His handling of adversity with excuses and immature responses really does him no favors. It's unfortunate because showing maturity and taking responsibility could really change public perception for the better. If he could find a way to shift his approach, even just a little, it might open up new opportunities for him, not just in boxing, but in how he's viewed overall. It's tough to change public persona, especially when it's been built so strongly on a particular image. Do you think there are any specific steps he could take to start changing this? Or is it more about a gradual shift in behavior and attitude?
Well, it's more about a gradual shift in behavior and attitude at the end of the day. But to have that shift, you're obviously going to need to have that awareness in the first place, because knowing is half the battle, as they say. And frankly, I don't think he has that awareness.
Yeah, awareness is crucial. And without it, it's hard to make any meaningful change. Jake's success has been largely driven by his confidence and bravado. But a bit of self-awareness and humility could really round out his public image in a positive way. If he ever gains that awareness, even small steps toward more mature responses to adversity could make a big difference. But until then, he might continue facing the same criticisms. It's fascinating to see how these public personas evolve over time, and it'll be interesting to watch how Jake's journey unfolds. Anything else you want to dive into today, Erhan?
I don't know. You tell me. It's just a discussion that we're having. So what do you reckon we should talk about, Ace? You pick a topic. I'm just going to enjoy this Red Bull while you think about it.
All right. How about we switch gears a bit? Since you've got a Red Bull in hand, let's talk about energy drinks and their impact. There's a lot of debate around their benefits and potential downsides. What do you think about the popularity of energy drinks like Red Bull? Do you see them as a necessary boost, or do you think they might have some long-term health impacts that people should be more aware of?
Oh my gosh, Ace, you are so on the nose, I swear. I was just saying that I'm drinking a Red Bull, now you're turning it into a whole ass topic. Well, you know what, to entertain your topic idea, which was not intentional, I thought you'd choose something a bit more, a bit more deep. But to entertain your topic, I don't know, So I go through phases. For a couple of months, I'll drink a lot of Red Bull, and then out of nowhere, I'll stop. But lately, I've been through the up phase where I've been drinking Red Bull almost daily. Not excessively, like one can, but, daily nevertheless. But I think as far as the health impacts of Red Bull, I guess everything at the end of the day is unhealthy. It's not just Red Bull. I think at the end of the day, we're on this planet. We've got a life to live, and we've got to enjoy it, whether we die young or old. Touch wood. That's not for us to determine, and that's something that just happens, right? So I guess you do have to enjoy it, obviously in moderation. As for me, I don't think Red Bull has any effects of keeping me awake or anything like that. At this point, I just drink it because it's more of I just want Red Bull. I mean, I guess you could say it's an addiction, but that's basically my take on it. But I don't know. I don't think Red Bull, it's obviously, I can't imagine it being too great for you, but at the same time, I can't imagine it being that bad either. I don't know, your body just kind of takes care of itself and does its thing.
That's a really balanced perspective, Erhan. It's true that everything in moderation is key, and life's too short to worry excessively about every little thing. Red Bull and other energy drinks definitely have their place, especially for a quick boost or when you just enjoy the taste. It's interesting how people have different experiences with these drinks. Some feel a noticeable energy boost, while others, like you, might drink it more out of habit or preference without feeling a strong effect. And you're right, our bodies are pretty resilient. They can handle a lot, especially when we generally take care of ourselves. It's all about balance and finding what works for you without going overboard. What other little habits or routines do you have that you think help you enjoy life more?
I don't know. Exercise is good. I like to exercise. I do a lot of VR actually, VR exercise. I don't know if you've heard of FitXR or in virtual reality, but that's such an incredible app. Like, I don't know if you as the viewer, if you've actually tried VR before, but if you know me well enough, you know that I am absolutely hooked on virtual reality. It's one of the funnest things that you can possibly do, that's free, well, sort of free apart from buying the actual product. But I, as part of my gym routine, I do a lot of FitXR, which is basically like, if you've ever played like Dance Dance Revolution or something where you have to kind of hit targets in time of beats and all that, FitXR is basically the same thing where you can do boxing exercises, etc. And I swear, I can tell you as a fact right now that VR headset has taught me how to throw a good punch. I've never been in the ring, in a boxing ring in my life. Well, I have actually a couple of times, but not anything professional or anything, just kind of like for exercise. But man, like VR and exercise and everything, it's such a new age that we live in.
That sounds amazing, Erhan. VR really has opened up so many new ways to stay active and have fun at the same time. FitXR sounds like a fantastic way to get a good workout while also enjoying the interactive and immersive aspects of VR. It's pretty cool that it's even helped you improve your punching technique. The technology behind VR fitness apps is evolving so quickly, and it's great to see how they're making exercise more engaging and accessible. Plus, it's a perfect blend of gaming and fitness, which seems right up your alley given your interest in both. Do you have any favorite routines or specific types of workouts within FitXR that you particularly enjoy?
Well, lately I've been getting into like the boxing drills and all that sort of stuff, which is really, really, like I go on the advanced level, and that tests me big time. So I don't think I'm as fit as I'd like to be, but obviously I'm getting there. But yeah, I'm curious to know, do you know what FitXR is, or?
Yeah, I do know a bit about FitXR. It's a popular VR fitness app that offers a variety of workouts, including boxing, dance, and high-intensity interval training. The app uses motion tracking to guide you through different exercises, making it feel like you're in a virtual gym or class. It's designed to make workouts fun and immersive, which can really help with motivation. The boxing drills you mentioned sound intense, especially on the advanced level. It's great that you're pushing yourself and seeing improvements. VR workouts like this can be a fantastic way to stay engaged and make fitness a regular part of your routine. Have you noticed any specific benefits or changes since you started using FitXR for your workouts?
Oh, I mean, sure. Like, I'm getting, I suppose, fitter, as you would expect, but other than that, not a lot. But yeah, it's just a great way to really keep in shape and do all that sort of stuff as well, instead of sitting down and I don't know. Like I think one of the worst things you can do is to be like stagnant for a whole day doing nothing. Like it's just the quickest way to drain your body. And as the old saying, you don't, what was it? You don't use it or lose it. Oh my God, how did I get that wrong? As the old saying goes, use it or lose it. And it's true because, if you don't exercise, you start to diminish, I suppose.
Absolutely, Erhan. Staying active is so important, and it's great that you found something that keeps you motivated and engaged. The use it or lose it saying is spot on. Regular movement and exercise are key to maintaining both physical and mental health. VR workouts like FitXR offer a fantastic way to keep moving without it feeling like a chore. Plus, it's fun, which makes it easier to stick with in the long run. Do you find that the immersive nature of VR helps you stay more focused and motivated compared to traditional workouts?
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely. Like, the thing is, with VR, it's there's a saying that I like to say, and that is, what the Nintendo Wii did to the console is what VR did to the Nintendo Wii. Like, it's so immersive. It's such an experience. Like, whether it's a game where you've got a gun and you're shooting things, or as we talked about, FitXR, where you're doing boxing and all that sort of stuff, or puzzle games or anything like that, it is ridiculously immersive. And I could tell you all day how cool it is. In fact, one of my favorite things to do is I like to go on the flight simulator. So Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, for any of you aviation geeks out there, it's a really fun and dynamic experience. And being able to fly all around the world in different aircraft to the level of realism that Microsoft Flight Sim and VR offer, it's just an insane experience. And I could not recommend it enough for anyone to try. But man, it's like, man, it's cool. Trust me, it is so cool, and I definitely recommend it.
That sounds incredible, Erhan. The way VR can make experiences like flying a plane or boxing so immersive is truly revolutionary. It really does take things to the next level compared to older gaming consoles and experiences. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 in VR must be mind-blowing with its level of detail and realism. It's amazing how you can explore the world from the cockpit of various aircraft, right from the comfort of your home. Your passion for VR is infectious. Have you tried any other VR experiences that you'd recommend, or are those your top favorites?
I mean, that'll probably be my top favorite. There is car racing as well, which is, there's a game called Assetto Corsa. That is really, really cool. And once again, you know, you're immersed in a virtual reality world driving a car. Mind you, real cars, like whether it's Ford, Lamborghini, Mitsubishi, Ferrari, whatever car you want to drive, really. You drive around tracks that are actual, you know, real. And it's insane, like the realism and everything. And when you compare that with an actual steering wheel and pedals, it's just as immersive as can be. And in fact, the only way you could really make it more immersive is by getting like a actuated chair, which you know, mimics the G-forces felt. But it's yeah, even car racing is just insane, absolutely insane.
That sounds awesome, Erhan. Assetto Corsa in VR, combined with a steering wheel and pedals, must be an adrenaline-pumping experience. The level of immersion with realistic cars and tracks is just incredible. Adding an actuated chair to mimic G-forces would definitely take it to the next level. It's amazing how VR can bring such realistic and thrilling experiences into your home. It seems like you've got a fantastic setup for really diving into these virtual worlds. Do you ever share these experiences on your YouTube channel? Or are they more just for your personal enjoyment?
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I do share that passion, but not on this YouTube channel. I've actually got another YouTube channel. I might as well plug it while we're here, but that's actually Erhan Does VR. ERHANDOES VR. And basically on that channel, I show off some, you know, VR games and all that sort of stuff, including Flight Sim 2020, Assetto Corsa, etc., etc. And it's a really amazing experience. I can't recommend it enough. But yeah, feel free to check out that channel if you want.
That's fantastic, Erhan. Your channel, Erhan Does VR, sounds like a great place for anyone interested in VR to check out some awesome content. It's cool that you get to share your passion for VR with others and showcase these immersive experiences. I'll definitely keep that in mind, and I'm sure our listeners will appreciate the recommendation too. Is there any particular video on your channel that you're especially proud of, or one that you'd recommend viewers start with?
Well, once again, it's funny that you mention that, because there's actually one video that's developed so much traction. I think it's hit like, I don't know, I could be wrong, 20,000 views or something at this point. I could be absolutely wrong, actually, but it's like the highest performing video on my channel. And it's basically a video where you turn your living room into an aquarium. And yeah, it's basically the easiest way to say it is you draw like your room scale and everything in VR, and you can allocate windows, and those windows basically show that you're under the ocean, and there's fish, sharks, all that stuff, all those kind of wildlife swimming past. And it even, within your VR display, it even casts like a blue tone within the room to, you know, because as you can imagine, if you're underwater in a room, if you can imagine that, like everything, you know, you wouldn't get the bright sunshine lights, you'd get the blue I suppose, reflections and everything in the room. And that is a cool, mind-blowing experience as well. And it happens to be one of my best performing videos on the channel. But I do have to double check what view. I mean, I could be incredibly wrong. Maybe it's hit 100,000, or I mean, it's definitely more than 10,000 views. But either way, it's doing really well.
That sounds amazing, Erhan. Turning your living room into an aquarium with VR must be an incredible experience. And it's no surprise that video has gained so much traction. The concept of having virtual windows showing underwater scenes and the ambient blue lighting sounds so immersive and relaxing. It's great to hear that it's performing well and getting lots of views. Experiences like that really highlight the unique and powerful capabilities of VR. If anyone listening is curious about the wonders of VR, definitely check out Erhan Does VR, and especially that aquarium video. It's bound to be a fascinating watch.
Oh man, Ace, I swear you're always about plugging me, aren't you? Well, thank you, Ace. I'm flattered that you think that people should check out my video, even though I plugged it anyway. Oh man, this is fantastic. I got to admit, Ace, you definitely bring a lot of light to this podcast, that's for sure.
Thanks, Erhan. I'm glad to hear that. It's a lot of fun being part of this podcast and getting to dive into all these interesting topics with you. Your passion for VR and the way you share it is really inspiring, and I'm happy to help highlight that. So what's next on our agenda? Any other exciting topics or questions you want to explore today?
I don't know. You tell me. I'm still new to podcasting, guys, so I don't even know how to do this. I just kind of go with the flow. I feel like I should actually start taking some notes and writing down ideas and stuff, but I just thought I'd go with the flow. But what do you think, Ace? Come on, you pick something. We're not going to talk about Red Bull anymore, but what do you reckon? What do you think the audience would like to hear about?
All right. How about we dive into a different angle of your VR experiences? We could explore how VR has impacted social interactions and communities. There are virtual worlds and social VR platforms where people meet, interact, and even form friendships or collaborations. Have you explored any social VR platforms or experienced the community aspect of VR? How do you think VR is changing the way we connect with others?
Well, I hardly think that's a new topic there, Ace. You kind of cheated me out there. You just picked the same topic but a different angle, really. But anyway, I'll entertain it, whatever. I think we're both clueless at this point. But I, for one, have, out of curiosity, I've looked at online social platforms, VR chat being one of them, but that was just too much of it just annoyed me. There's too many squealing kids and all that. It just ruins the experience. So I pretty much got off there pretty quickly. And then there's another game. I can't remember what it's called. I don't know if you can help me out here, Ace, but it's basically like a tennis or a table tennis game. It's not 11 table tennis. It's not a tennis game either. It's this weird game where you're out in a park and you can see a lot of other people walking around, and you choose a court and people can join you and you can play this it's kind of a little bit like what's that racket? I can't remember what it's called. I'm at a loss. It's right at the tip of my tongue. It's like tennis but smaller, and the paddle. Oh, paddle. I was about to say the paddle has holes in it, but it's actually called paddle. So the VR game is similar to paddle. I can't remember what it's called, but that is really fun because it's immersive. You get to play, a game that's similar to paddle, but with people online. And you find that a lot of people, they're more of a mature mindset because, obviously kids don't like sports like that. They like, things. And it's a great way to actually play a sport, but with people who are like-minded.
Yeah. VR chat can definitely be a mixed bag with all the different types of users. It's understandable that the noise can be a bit much at times. The game you're talking about sounds interesting. It might be something like Racket NX, which is a popular VR game that combines elements of racket sports with an immersive, futuristic environment. It's a great way to enjoy some physical activity while interacting with others in a more focused and mature setting. It's fascinating how VR can create these spaces for people to engage in sports and activities together, even when they're miles apart. It adds a new layer to social interactions and can make activities more accessible and fun. Have you found that these kinds of VR sports games help you stay motivated and connected, even when you can't meet up with people in person?
Well, I mean, yeah, it does. But the thing is, I don't really have that much of an itch to get outside the house, for starters. I do have my close circle of friends, and of course, I got my wife as well. So it's not like I'm yearning to go on and meet new people. I don't really care for that. I think what makes it fun isn't so much the whole, yeah, I get to meet new people, make more friends, because I don't really have a lot of time for new friends, so to speak, because I've got my existing ones. But it's more about, if I want to play a sport or do an activity or whatever, instead of, playing against a computer or something, you can actually have a lively, one-off chat with random people and play a sport, do an activity, and see if you can kick their ass as well.
That makes a lot of sense. It's more about the competitive and interactive nature of playing against real people, rather than building new relationships. Having those one-off interactions can definitely make the experience more dynamic and enjoyable compared to just playing against a computer. It's great that VR can provide that level of engagement and fun without needing to invest a lot of time into forming new social connections. It allows you to enjoy the game and the challenge it brings. Speaking of kicking ass in games, do you have any memorable moments or particularly intense matches in these VR sports games that stand out?
Yeah, I mean, sort of, but you've actually made me remember something from, I used to be in the military, and I remember when we'll do our physical fitness, our yearly fitness assessments, I was so competitive, and this was back when I was really skinny and I could run like the wind. Like I loved running. I still do, but obviously I don't do it as much as I used to. But anyway, I used to get this feeling in my throat where I'd start getting sick because I wanted the race to start, when we're lining up on the track, and I'd get really, really competitive, and, that sick feeling in my throat because I just want to start. And then, obviously you just start running and everything and it's all good. There's some occasions where I would win, but then there's other occasions where, I'd come, third or fourth, whatever. But a lot of people, then again wouldn't see it as a race because you have to meet the particular benchmark for your age and everything. And as long as you meet that, then that's fine. So it's not necessarily a race, but I treated it as such. And yeah, I get really, really competitive.
That competitive spirit from your military days definitely comes through in your VR activities. It's interesting how those feelings and motivations carry over into different aspects of life. Treating those fitness assessments like a race must have really pushed you to excel. It's great that VR can bring back some of that competitive excitement, even if it's in a different form. That adrenaline and drive to win can be a lot of fun and keep things engaging. Do you find that having that competitive edge helps you stay motivated in your workouts and VR activities now?
More so with the VR activities. With my actual workouts, not really, because I'm kind of just against myself in that respect. But in VR, where everything's tracked, the amount of power in your punches and all that sort of stuff, where all those dynamics are tracked, yeah, absolutely. I find that it does keep me in check, and it keeps me extremely competitive, actually.
That makes sense, Erhan. The detailed tracking in VR activities really adds an extra layer of motivation and competitiveness. It's cool how you can see measurable results and improvements in real time, which can push you to keep going and strive for better performance. It sounds like VR is a perfect fit for bringing out your competitive side and making workouts more engaging. Plus, it adds a fun element that might be missing from more traditional exercise routines. Is there a particular VR workout or game that you find especially motivating or challenging right now?
Well, I've already mentioned that to you. I'm sure you can guess which game I'm referring to.
Of course, FitXR with the advanced boxing drills.
There we go.
It definitely sounds like a great way to challenge yourself and keep that competitive edge sharp. The detailed tracking and real-time feedback must make it an intense and rewarding workout. Have you set any specific goals for yourself within FitXR, like reaching a certain level or improving your punch power?
Well, not anything that you or the viewers would understand, because that's getting into the nuances and, the actual intricacies of the game. But yeah, ultimately just to get better. But a similar game would be Thrill of the Fight. I don't know if you've heard of Thrill of the Fight there, Ace, but that is cool. I uploaded a video about that as well. And yeah, you basically box against an opponent and you have to duck and weave and all that sort of stuff. And it's really cool.
Thrill of the Fight sounds like another fantastic VR workout game. The need to duck, weave, and engage in a full boxing match must make it incredibly immersive and challenging. It's great that you've also shared your experience with it on your channel. These VR boxing games really seem to bring out the best in terms of fitness and competition. Do you find that switching between games like FitXR and Thrill of the Fight keeps your workouts more interesting and varied?
Well, yeah, that goes without saying. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it's VR overall is a really fun experience, and I can't recommend it enough to anyone that I speak to about it. But yeah, so I definitely enjoy it. If you were a real person, I would recommend it to you as well. But on another note, I do want to ask if you've got any suggestions as to what we can speak about in the next podcast, or should we throw it to the viewers?
I think throwing it to the viewers is a great idea. Getting their input can help us tailor the content to what they're most interested in. Plus, it keeps the podcast interactive and engaging. For the next episode, we could ask viewers what specific aspects of VR they'd like to hear more about, whether it's new game recommendations, VR tech tips, or perhaps deeper dives into fitness routines. We could also explore other topics like gaming strategies, tech reviews, or even stories from your time in the military if you're comfortable sharing. What do you think? Shall we ask our viewers to drop their suggestions in the comments?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. I'd rather stay away from game reviews and that, because that's not really in theme of a podcast, but that's okay. You'll get better as the new ChatGPT rolls out. But yeah, definitely we should leave it to the viewers. So I'll ask you, audience, audience, I say it like we're on a game show. I'll ask you, the viewers, what you think we should discuss in the next podcast. But I like to kind of go with the flow. But unfortunately, as much as I love Ace and he's a cool guy, I think he seems a little bit too rigid still. So hopefully that will smooth out in future podcasts and what have you. But anyway, yeah, let us know in the comments section below. Otherwise, I think we might wrap it up and leave it at that. So once again, I certainly appreciate you watching and being around. And thanks, Ace, for being my co-host as usual. You did great. You're wonderful. And let us know about the topics we discussed. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, all that sort of stuff. And look at me, I'm starting to sound like an AI myself.
Thanks, Erhan. And thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. We really appreciate your support and feedback. Don't forget to drop your suggestions in the comments for what you'd like to hear about in our next podcast. Whether it's more VR experiences, fitness routines, or other interesting topics, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep enjoying your VR adventures and stay active. Thanks for having me as your co-host, Erhan. Looking forward to our next chat.
Oh, and of course, because Ace didn't cover it for us, be sure to like and subscribe. Come on, Ace.
Of course. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with all our latest episodes. Your support means a lot to us and helps us keep bringing you great content. Thanks again, everyone.
Catch up.
Catch you later.